Alright, good evening everyone. Welcome to Green White Checker TV. As you see right now, we're riding on board with Steve Gottschalk, my co-commentator in the booth. He is getting his warm-up lap complete, and he's going to take us through a lap here over at the Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, otherwise also a lot of drivers know as Mosport. So Steve, you're about to take the green, take us through a lap at this very challenging track. Unfortunately, I'm not hearing Steve. He's probably going through stuff, so I'll kind of go through it for him right now. So you saw just right there, turn number one. You saw the curbs to the inside. You got to make sure you don't kind of go too far onto the curbs there. Here into turn number two, it's really easy to overshoot that turn and wash out. And then you come to turn number three. In my opinion, one of the more difficult turns. It kind of tightens as you go. It's very easy to overshoot that turn and wind up in the grass, then followed into the tire barriers as well. And then here into turn number four, and then now into the turn number five, kind of a two-part turn. You really want to hit this. That's pretty much make it one turn if you can, and then you come out of here onto the long backstretch. A couple quote-unquote turns, not really turns though, because you're going to be foot to the floor here. This is pretty much one of your best passing zones at this track, as the drivers here are going to be heading down this back, and that's going to lead into the next turn here, which is a long sweeping right-hander, turn number 8. And same thing here, you're going to try to send it as deep as you can, and then you got to try to keep it to the right because you got a left-hander right afterwards. And then as soon as you finish that left-hander, you're going to bring it right back to the right and then get across the start-finish line. And that is a very short and quick lap here at Mosport. Basically just over a 1 minute lap. Here's that curve I was talking about again in turn number one. You want to try to get as close to it as you can, maybe even use it a bit. But if you get too far over to the right of it, it definitely is going to make you have a tough time tonight. So drivers making their laps right now. I'm going to say we'll stay on board here with Steve, watch him do a few more laps just to kind of get a view of the track. But yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun this evening, and I think these drivers are definitely going to have their work cut out for them tonight. So another thing to mention is 51 laps tonight is the race distance, so it should be just about an hour long time-wise. And the fuel window is going to be very critical as well. It's going to be very interesting to see if drivers are going to try to make it a 2-stop race or bring it to a 3-stop race. Basically, if they're going to 2-stop it, they got to try to stretch every tank to 17 laps. If they're going to 3-stop it, they have a lot more room for error. They can go basically 12 to 13 laps, would be splitting it evenly. But just to add another wrench into things is going to be the fact that they need to use both sets of tires tonight. So at some point in the race, if you start on the alternate reds, you're going to have to at some point run those primary blacks. So that's going to be another thing that we're going to be having to watch for this evening, to see kind of which drivers on which set of tires. And of course, drivers have to be very attentive on making sure that they don't burn up their push to passes throughout the night. And good evening, Jim. Good to see you on here. Hope you enjoy the race this evening. I say things just about finishing up here, and qualifying just has completed, so we got to go through our starting grid for tonight. And let's go ahead and pull up our cameras here. Alright, so let's go ahead and pull up our starting grid for tonight's event. And on pole position is going to be the number 10 of Anders Aarhus, able to get around that number 007 of Henry Bennett by just basically an eighth of a second, 0.125 of a second. Matt Wagner there in third, Jim Brooks in fourth, Covey Moore in fifth. You got Alec Coates, Craig Forsyth, Charles Teed, Jimmy Drynan, David Payton rounding out our top 10. 11th and 12th is Jari Brupacher and Todd Merkel. And then 13th through 24th is, you see it shows Steve Gottschalk there in the 051 and say obviously not racing. He better not be racing. I want him in the booth with me tonight. Logan Helton, Jeff Heisong, Nick DeGroot. You got Chris Jabot, James Ledford, Chris Matthews, Kurt Rose, Joseph Morales, Jack Walls, and David Leclerc. And then the remainder of the field here, you've got Don Runkle Jr. in 25th, Gary Corley, and John Brill rounding out our, I believe, 25 cars that will be taking part in this race this evening.
Can you hear me now?
There's our fearless leader, Steve. Yeah, unfortunately, couldn't hear you during the laps. Whatever the issues we were having earlier, they still seem to be sticking around. But obviously, I was kind of able to kind of make a quick adjustment and kind of do the overview of the track for you. I mean, just how crazy was that lap for you? Like, how did it feel? And what do you think are going to be some of the most difficult spots for the drivers here tonight?
I think you called the right places that are the most difficult spots. To me, it's turn one. Uh, Actually, everything from turn one to that hairpin is difficult. You've got the elevations that cause problems. Um, some For some reason the turns just seem to be longer than they look like they are. So it's really easy to run off the track at all of those turns. And as you mentioned to me when we were talking beforehand, there's not a lot of runoff space here. You get in that grass and you are going into the tire barrier. But to me, the absolute hardest turn is that left-hander after I think it's turn 3 that you said was so tough. For me, it's the left-hander where you go down the hill and then back up into the hairpin because you can't see. You have a blind hill there and you can't see the left hand where that left-hander is, and you just have to guess.
Yeah, you're exactly right. It's a very difficult track. A lot of elevation change, which I think makes it just all the more exciting and interesting for things. And so you see right now they're coming through that turn number 3 complex, and then they're going to start heading down into turn number 4. And this is where you're talking about, Steve. This is where it was pretty much a blind entry, and you'll see the elevation changes we ride behind that Porsche pace car. Like I said, I mean, we're on the roll bar of this car, so you can see a lot better, but you're right, you just kind of come straight down here, and then you see as soon as you hit that, pretty much hit the turn here, you're going to come right back up again, and it starts to flatten out. And like I said, you kind of have to try to make it 2 turns there. So it's going to be very interesting to see. That's going to be one of the more difficult parts for these drivers, especially when they're on this initial start here, where everybody's going to be pretty kind of gathered together. And with that in mind, there are 3 drivers that opted to, they said, you know what, we're going to play this a little safe. We don't want to be in this mix right now at the start. That's going to be the 24 Chris Jabot, Jack Walls, James Ledford. Those 3 guys opting to start from the pits this evening. Just trying to keep their car, I think, out of trouble. And I'm also looking at the tires right now. Top 4 are on the alternate reds. I believe I see 5th and 6th, Covey Moore, Alec Coates. I believe they are on the alternate blacks, primary blacks. So that's going to be another thing to keep an eye on and see how this comes out here this evening, if that comes into play.
And I don't think I heard you mention it yet, but the rules that they have put in place tonight, there's probably going to be 3 pit stops, and on at least one of them, you have to use a set of reds and a set of blacks all raised. You can't use all reds, you can't use all blacks. So at some point, you have to use the tires that you might not like as much.
Exactly right. As we're underway, you see right off the bat a great start for Alec Coates, but too wide entering turn 1. He falls off the track. That's going to give Henry Bennett the lead. A little further back, looks like we had a couple incidents here towards the back. Looks like a handful of drivers, actually, David Leclerc being one of them. We're going to go back and try to catch all of it. Actually, this is still coming to the green, it looks like. So we'll come back and we'll kind of watch the initial start here, see what happened to David Leclerc as he gets the throttle down. And, you see, stack up in front of him, actually, trying to catch what car. I think that's Jari Brupacher, actually, that had an issue at the beginning. Let's go back to him and see what happened to Jari here. So now we're taking a look at Jari Brupacher just ahead of this group here. Actually, so even in front of him, looks like a car caught the inside wall there, or the tire barrier there. So it all kind of kicked off right at the front here. Then yeah, so it's a lot that we had happen right at the very beginning. So I'm going to jump back live because I think there's probably going to be a lot of things going on right off the bat. And so right now though, it's going to be Henry Bennett here that's been able to take the point. Just that little mistake, though, by that 007 of Henry, Anders Arhus has allowed Henry Bennett to take the point.
Yeah, that was we've kind of seen Anders. I mean, he's very fast at these road courses, but we've also seen him really cost himself with mistakes. And unfortunately, had one right at the beginning going into turn 1.
Yeah, and it looks like Matt Wagner as well may have just had a moment. We're going to go back and take a look because he was one of those that was towards the front here. So let's go back and we'll take a look to see what happened to that number 11 of Matt Wagner here. And I say here you see him hitting the turn, and yet just a little too wide, and again, just nothing he can do. Catches the outside wall. That's going to break that left front suspension, and from here I think he's just going to try to limp this thing back to the pits. Let's see if that car was able to make it or if he had to take a tow here. And it looks like he was able to make this car get to pit road, but you can see just how much damage that car has. Driver split him 3 wide there, unfortunately, as well with what happened there.
And we've got the leaders coming up on a car that I guess is about to get lapped.
Yeah, that is coming up on, I believe that is going to be Logan Helton in the 63. So again, everything's happening so fast here at this track. It's going to be tough to keep up with. However, we do have a really good battle up front with Henry Bennett, Anders Arhus, and looking at the push to passes as well right now. I am able to get a little bit of insight to see who's using the push to passes when, and Henry has used one of his already. Anders Arhus has yet to use any of his. So right now, the push to pass advantage is +1 for Anders here. Again, very early in the going here. Right now, it's those two in the point. A little bit behind them, Covey Moore, he is up to 3rd. And right behind him, Craig Forsyth in that 4th position, Jim Brooks in 5th.
And you're right, that was Logan Helton in the yellow car, and he just got lapped by the leaders. And Joseph Morales, I believe, was the next car ahead of them. I'm not sure if they passed him or not.
Yeah, saying right now, just it's all happening so fast right now. You can see already multiple cars a lap down just from everything that happened right off the bat. So I was going to mention about some drivers maybe looking at doing some pit strategy, maybe trying to do that 2-stopper. Those that maybe started from the pits, but I think unfortunately that 24 is one of those that I was thinking might be doing. That would be Chris Chabot, but you can see actually, he's got trouble already too. He's missing the front nose cone, basically just hanging off that car. He's going to get put a lap down here as we speak. So yeah, so just right now this track is very difficult, and it is biting these drivers very quickly here.
Yeah, and this is definitely going to be one of those races where you have to race the track and not the other cars, because it's just way too easy to make a mistake and get off the track and run into something, and then your car looks like Chris's.
Yeah, and I say it's going to be tough for me to try to show everything that's going on because there's so much going on. Like I have a little thing on my screen that I can kind of look at and see what's going on around with people. And I mean, it's just flashing and flashing, drivers hitting the, going off track, having incidents. You see Covey Moore, he's in the pits. I do not know if this is a scheduled stop or not for this car. This might be the one that we talked about, Steve. Maybe here pit a little early, and then from here go ahead and make those remaining, make the remaining here to the end on fuel. So we'll have to keep an eye on Covey and see how his progression goes and see if that's the right strategy for him in that number 98 machine.
And I was watching Chris, and while I was doing that, on the second to last turn, 2 cars got into each other, and trying to see who it is. It's a white car and a blue and yellow one.
It may have been Gary Corley. It was one of those. I just saw Gary Corley actually jump to the pits. So, yeah, that may have been one of those that got into one another. So, yeah, I mean, right now you already see there's only 18 cars already on the lead lap. And some of those not that far away from being put a lap down. So right now, it's a really pretty much a 2-car breakaway. Henry Bennett, Anders Arhus, you can see those two still within about that half second of each other. So let's take a lap up at speed here with that number 10 of Anders Arhus, and let's just kind of get a feel for how crazy this place is here under green flag conditions. This is that backstretch we were talking about, Steve. And so right now you can see the dashboard has not lit up green, which means he's not opting to use that push to pass. I think right now he's close enough to use the draft, I think, to really its full advantage here. So right now I think he's just going to try to keep Henry in his sights, which I think is the way to do it here. Let's say we're going to come here through the last couple of turns, and we'll start this opening lap right now. Right now, again, this is the top 2 here on track right now as we start lap number 7.
And it's really interesting. Logan Helton, I think he was 6th fastest in practice. I don't know what happened to him that put him back to where he got lapped. But since the 2 leaders passed him, he's like stuck to the to the rear wing of Anders Aarhus.
Yeah, and I'm wondering Logan may have just unfortunately maybe either made a mistake or got caught up in something. And like I said, I think just has the pace, and that's one of the things you can do here. Is once you get kind of locked on to some of the drivers that are really quick, is you really learn a lot from them. So I think that might be exactly like you're saying. That might be exactly what we see right now from Logan Helton. You can see just right on the gearbox of Anders Aarhus. We can see not wanting to force the issue. I think right now he's just going to follow him, just kind of stay in line. I'll say maybe communicating as well in the race chat, like, hey, just you drive your thing. Don't worry about your mirror here. I'm just going to follow you because I'm already down a lap. Because we don't suspect we will see any anything along the lines of cautions, let's say. So we expect to see greens, to see a really close call there for Logan trying to get around. I believe that was Jack Walls. So yeah, so like I said, just everything right now, pretty much everything kicking off. But right now, though, one of the bigger movers actually, I'm going to jump here around a little bit. We have two huge movers actually, Steve. The first is that 92 of Chris Matthews. He's up into 7th position, plus 12 from his starting spot. So great initial start for Chris in that 92 car. And then a little further back, this is the 00 Don Runkle Jr. plus 15 in the top 10 with that car. And so, I mean, with everybody I said we had a lot of things happen early and often there. These two have been able to keep their cars so far clean. Don't want to jinx them and say they're friends of ours, so we never want to have anything bad happen to them. But so far on this initial stint, doing a great job for these two. Like I said, plus 12, plus 15 from the start of the green.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm glad to see that Don did that start. You said he started from the pits?
No, actually, the ones that started from the pits were, I believe it was Chris Jabot and then two others. I want to say, I'm trying to remember who it was right now offhand. Oh, got a couple of cars around there, Steve, in a really dangerous spot. I think one of those was Joseph Morales. We'll go back and take a look at this one because it's right in front of the leaders here. And that could have been a big moment for them. We'll watch him as he's about to enter turn number 1. Oh, and you see contact between himself and the two of Todd Merkel. And then you watch Henry Bennett coming around. He just has to make quick action to avoid them. Same for Anders Aarhus. You can see they had to kind of jump wide to avoid him. So it's I mean, right now these guys have to really stay on their toes here.
Yeah, and I can tell you from the time that there was one time that I lost it in practice and tried to stay out of everybody's way, and it's really hard to do if your car gets stuck in the middle of the track.
Yeah, no, this is a really difficult. It's a lot of fun. It's a really challenging track. So when you can do things right, it makes it that much more enjoyable. And that's just because of the sheer difficulty of this place. Like I said, when I did some practice laps with some of the guys with this league a few days ago, I mean, you have to be committed 110% because you can make so much time if you kind of fully commit to the turns where you feel like, okay, I'm going to need to lift a little more, but you do that, you lose probably at least a second. And so that's where if you really can commit to it and just really stay aggressive, there's a lot of time to be found. But of course, like we mentioned, this track bites hard because it's a narrow track, and you can see, I mean, this thing, there are walls all around you. There's not a lot of opportunity to try to avoid those issues. And so, I mean, if you get off in the grass, you're probably not going to save that car before it finds its way into the wall.
And it seems like basically everywhere I look, there's a car going off the track. So
yeah, no, you're not wrong there. There are a lot of cars off track right now. It's this, I mean, and like I said, I could try to go and show everything that's happening, but there would be so much to try to go through. So that's right now. Right now we'll kind of run through the field here. We've obviously talked about our race leader, Henry Bennett, Anders Aarhus. And here comes Anders, actually, Steve. He's making his first pit stop here, lap number 10, actually coming to 11. So he's going to be the first of our takers here on the lead pack. I think this is a scheduled stop as well. So let's see if Henry Bennett is forced to react to this number 10 car.
And I want to see what he does with tires here. He was on the reds. And car's up, and looks like he put blacks on.
So yes, that tells you right there that he's going to be good to go on the rules there. So yeah, you're right. Anders Aarhus now on the primary black tires instead of the alternate reds. So he's going to cycle out in, looks like still about the 5th position. So I mean, as a whole, that's not bad for Anders here. And he comes out in a pretty good little opening here. He's got the car right behind him. And actually, you see right in front of him, Jack Wall's just sliding off there again. That was one of the trouble spots I had mentioned. But yeah, so he's going to cycle out in the top 5 still. So now we'll jump around back to our leader, Henry Bennett, see if Henry's going to react to that. He does not. So let's run through the rest of our running order right now. Second place, Craig Forsyth in that number 27 car, +5 from his starting position. In the third position is the number 3 of Alec Coates, running in third. In fourth, right where he started, is that 51 of Jim Brooks. I think right now for Jim is a good start for him. Just needs to try to keep this thing clean. And that's the thing is, I mean, there's going to be those races where you can just keep that car in one piece and kind of keep it on the track there. You're going to have a good result as well. So we just mentioned Anders Arhus already. Chris Matthews, we just talked about him a little bit ago. Covey Moore, we mentioned him. He pitted a few laps earlier as well. One of the earliest pitters, and he's already up into the 7th position with that strategy here. So it's going to be very intriguing to see kind of how this all pans out for Covey. I think he's doing what I talked about, Steve, where you go ahead and you pit early, and then you do the remaining 3. You can kind of run the remaining 3 the rest of the way. So we'll definitely want to keep an eye and see what that number 98 machine does.
Well, I'm thinking if you pit that early, you probably only have to take 2 more stops. So you
I'm sorry. Stop. You're right. 2 more. You're right. 3 total, but yeah.
So what he did is kind of the opposite of how I would probably do it, which was, take a short one at the end.
I got you. Yeah, so I'd say I was actually thinking about, my strategy was similar to Covey's, was pit early, and then from there just run it out to the end. But the one thing we didn't mention, we have mentioned the 2-stop potential, as these cars have a lot of adjustability to them. You can run the low fuel map basically where you kind of run it lean. And that could that get somebody to the 2-stopper and make that lap 17 mark or not? We're already on lap number 13, so that's going to be interesting to see. As we show right now, we're showing David Payton. He's in that 8th position right now, kind of in a nice little pocket right now, nice and calm around him. Same thing goes for Jeff Heisong. He's in 9th. Nobody really around him as well, so he can right now just kind of focus and hit his marks. And then right now running out our top 10 is that number 11 of Matt Wagner. And Steve, I think we mentioned for Matt, I believe he's had an unscheduled pit stop right off the bat there, so I think he's kind of on his recovery drive as well, which has kind of been the theme of his season so far, where he's been caught up in incidents or solo spins, things like that, and he's having to kind of do another recovery drive. So we'll see how far that 11 can work its way up through the field.
Yeah, definitely. He unfortunately will not have the benefit of cautions to bunch him back up.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's for him, it's going to have to be all about the outright pace, which would not be surprised to see. But we're talking about outright pace, and man, the one I'm watching right now is that number 10 of Anders Arhus. I say he's gotten right to the gearbox of that number 51 of Jim Brooks. And again, Anders, he's already made a pit stop, so he's right now 5th with a stop advantage here over that 51. So now this is a battle for position. So now you have to wonder, how hard does Jim fight this here? And how much does Anders push the issue as well? So I think for Anders here, you just kind of wait here, hit this hairpin, and then try to get a good exit. Maybe this might be a place to use that push to pass as well. And as I say that, you see the green on the bar there. He is on that push to pass. He wants to get around this 51 now. Does not want to waste any time with that fighting for a position here.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe he's on fresher tires.
Yep, yes, Anders pitted on lap number 10 as we are right now on lap number 15 here. Oh, you see one right off the track right in front of those two. Looks like they both get through cleanly. Got another car that's kind of off track there. I think that was maybe Chris Jabot. I think may have been just being overly polite there, staying out of their way, because this is also a very tough track to kind of give room to drivers as well. So you see Anders has been able to get around Jim, and he's been able to sneak away. Man, this is where the question lies, though, now, Steve, is the strategies. Again, we don't know for sure. For instance, we don't know what Jim Brooks' strategy. Maybe he is going to fuel save, and he's going to go for that 2-stopper if he can get to lap number 17. We are on 15 already. And same thing goes Henry Bennett. We never know what Henry's up to. He's kind of a robot, unfortunately, as well. He's alien, I think is the correct term in racing, where he's just that good. And so there's times where he can make a lot of pace and be saving fuel at the same time. So it's going to be very intriguing to see what he does.
And one of the other strategies that we had talked about that people may take here, and I think it's what Anders is probably doing, is to split the 51 laps into thirds, essentially. So you're going like 11 or 12 laps.
Yeah, it's very possible. And actually, as I say that now, here comes Alec Coates and Jim Brooks. They're both hitting the pits. so they could not go to that lap 17 mark. They're pitting here at 16, so that tells me they're going to be short, Steve. But there's two drivers here that look like are going to hit that lap 17 mark up front. That is going to be Henry Bennett, Craig Forsyth. Now the question is, can they stretch even that little bit extra to maybe even get to lap number 18? We'll have to wait and see. We'll keep an eye right now as we watch that 007.
Well, and I think then the question after that is, going on a two-stop strategy, you're probably not able to push it quite as hard as somebody that's on a three-stop strategy. So how's that going to come out in the end?
That's a good question. And I'll say some of the tools and toys we have to play with. So rough number on a pit stop, it looks like it's roughly around 33 seconds is how long you're in the pit lane total, including the pit stop. So basically, as long as Henry's not losing 30 seconds on track by maybe running a slower pace, this could be the shorter strategy, the quicker strategy, I should say, through the race. So say if it was one of those pit stops where it's a really long pit stall, almost like in Indianapolis, that might be definitely something where you want to be a little more aggressive and try to save fuel. So yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see. As Chris Matthews, he hits pit road as well. He was in the top 5, so he's going to get service done. Again, also on lap 17 for that 92 cars, he drives on out, along with Jeff Hysong. He's hitting pit road now as well. And I suspect, yep, here comes Henry Bennett. Oh, and he's going to have a little bit of traffic in front of him, Steve. He's got a car right in front, so that might slow down his pit entry. May have not been able to take it as aggressively as he wanted to. So this is going to be very interesting right now to see where he comes out in relation to Anders. And also Craig Forsyth is hitting pit road as well. You see one car jumping out right in front of him there as well. So now I'm going to be watching is Anders Arhus and see can he cycle through to the lead with his pit stop cycle. Again, they're going to be on different strategies here, Steve, but it's going to be a close pit stop battle right now.
And Anders is just coming through.
Just got him. There he goes. He's going to come through turn 1. You see Henry Bennett. He comes out right behind him. So race lead's going to switch back over to that number 10 of Anders Arhus, which I don't think he's actually led a lap yet either, Steve, with that little bit of a mistake on lap number 1. So that's going to give the 10 car now. So he's just got to keep it clean, but I think this will allow him to get that lap led, which is always nice to have that little bit of extra. That extra point always goes a long ways.
Yep, definitely. So now the question is, let's see, how far back is Henry Bennett from Anders Arhus?
It looks like about 2 seconds at the moment.
Okay, so I would say that means Anders is in trouble here because he probably would have needed to gain 15 seconds on each of his pit stops for a total of, well, plus more than 15, because he's got to gain 33 seconds on Henry Bennett.
Yeah, exactly. And that's where the question is going to lie, is going to be what the right strategy is. But I mean, right now I'd say he's got, like you said, obviously he's got Henry right there about 2 seconds back. Craig Forsyth about another 5 seconds back. And then here's the driver we talked about at the beginning, Covey Moore. Remember, we talked about him pitting at lap number 4. I think he did that really short stop, and now he can go the same thing. He can go, I believe he can make it on, it was 2 more stops if I'm not mistaken. So you see Covey's right in this mix as well here. But again, we think Covey might have to do one more stop than Craig and Henry. So, but again, we talk about strategies is going to be kind of the name of the game, and we're seeing that play out right now. As you've got right now the top 4 all with very, very different pit strategies here tonight. Anders pitting on lap number 10, Henry and Craig on 17, Covey on lap number 4. So, pretty interesting to see how we'll have to see how this all pans out when it's all said and done.
Well, I've convinced myself that the 2-stop strategy is the way to go.
All right, so Steve's going on the 2-strategy approach. And unfortunately, I'd say this track has been biting aggressively, and we have a lot of cars out of this race already. Unfortunately, it looks like we've lost Gary Corley, Charles Teed, David Leclerc, the number 60 of Joseph Morales, then Chris Jabot, Yari Brupacher. Looks like all of these drivers have already retired. So we're lap number 20 in, so not quite halfway yet either. But like I said, with that first lap, everything was kicking off right away. And yeah, it was unfortunate to say, bet a lot of drivers very early.
I did a race here in stock cars, and my recollection is I made it a whole 5 laps, ran off the track twice, and hit the wall both times, and that was about as far as I made it.
Yeah, and I honestly, I'd probably be in the same boat with you as well. It took me a good 5-10 laps to be able to start running some clean laps here, because like I said, it just the commitment that this track requires is it's one of the toughest that I've been a part of. Like I said, with these cars too, just everything's happening so fast. And I need to mention Kobe Moore. Just need to say he's hitting pit road right now in that 98, so this is his second stop. And so I'd say, then I think that proves our point, Steve. This is going to definitely put him one extra pit stop compared to the guys around him of Henry Bennett, Craig Forsyth. So as things run, I would say that that 007 and the 27 are definitely, I think, on the catbird seat strategy-wise. But I think we're going to have a really good battle for third between Kobe Moore and Anders Arhus, because I think both those guys will be on that similar three-stop strategy. And the only other drivers that might have a chance of making it as well on the two-stopper, one of those being Matt Wagner. So he had to make that lap one pit stop. He's going to maybe be one that can stretch it. Logan Helton, same thing goes for him. He pitted on lap 17 as well. The one that's a question mark for me is that number 92, Chris Matthews. Chris pitted on lap 16, so it's one lap short, but maybe this might be an opportunity for him to be able to stretch a little extra. And you can see, I think he might already be trying to save pretty aggressively in that number 92 car. Hopefully nothing's wrong with the car. We saw him let someone go by there pretty easily, so I wonder if Chris might be thinking long term here instead of this short run pace.
Yeah, hopefully he is, because if he can make it on a two-stop strategy, then I think he'll get a decent finish, probably right around 7th where he is now.
So we're going to hop on board now with that 007 of Henry Bennett. He's closed that gap to just under a second, Steve, about 6/10 right now as they head down the backstretch. And for the most part, everybody's used a couple push passes here and there. The first that's yet to use any is that the 3 of Alec Coates. Chris Matthews, Nick DeGroot, they've yet to use any of theirs as well. So we'll have to see how that all pans out throughout the race. However, I kind of suspect, though, if you're Henry Bennett, Craig Forsyth, you probably can't afford to burn that extra fuel to use that push to pass. So I think they'll have to be very, very strategic and very careful about when they use those push to passes.
Yeah, I think I agree with you.
So as you see, they head into turn number 2, now heading to turn number 3 again, what I feel like is one of the more difficult turns, because you can just see how the apex kind of tightens up there, and it's so easy to overdrive that. And then we, like Steve talked about, that blind turn number 4 into turn number 5, and then really tough on the brakes, have to get through that elevation change as well, and then slowest part of the track right there, and then quick back on the throttle here down the backstretch with a couple of turns, but there's not really any turning going on. You see Henry Bennett is on the button here. He wants to get around that number 10 of Anders Arhus. Anders not going to give it up, though. He's going to make him work on the top side here. So we'll see if they're able to make it work. And yet there you see Henry was able to just get around the 10 car. Henry Bennett's going to take the lead back over here on lap 23.
And here goes Anders into the pits, so he's definitely on the three-stop strategy here.
Yeah, exactly right. So he's here pitting again, coming to 24, so he'll still need the one more to go to get to the end. So basically the next number for Henry and Craig is going to be lap 34 is going to be the magic number for those guys. Maybe 35 if they could stretch it just that little bit extra. But right now, I say Henry's got about, if I'm not mistaken, about 7 seconds here to play with over now that 27 of Craig Forsyth.
Okay, and Anders is back to the red tires.
And he's going to cycle out right in front. Oh, I believe that's Jack Walls that was right behind him. So that's perfect for Anders. Gives him some nice clean track. I say he's got pretty much, I'd say, a couple seconds before he gets to the next car. So that's exactly what you want to have after a pit stop, is get that clean air. So that worked out perfectly for that 10 car. And he also cycles out still in that third position as well, Steve, even with that extra pit stop. So that's a really good position to be in. Like I say, you don't have the track position you want, compared to Henry and Craig, but you're still right now kind of the best of those guys that are on that three-stop strategy.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's still good. I mean, all these guys, I think we're down to the point now where they're all going to have to take one more stop.
I think there's a few more that have yet to make their second stop. Right now, I say we're watching Alec Coates. Alex yet to make his second stop as well. He pitted on lap 15, so he's on 25 now, so it's been about 10 laps. He can probably go a little longer here if he chooses to, and he is going to stay out again. Covey Moore, he pitted on lap number 20. So yeah, so Covey, we know he can make it on one more stop based on the numbers that we have. Say Jim Brooks pitted on 15. He can go, again, same thing, probably about to lap 30. If he's on the same pace, probably about lap 30 would be his next stop. And then Chris Matthews, he was on lap 16, so we'll have to keep an eye on Chris, see what he does. And then Matt Wagner, same thing. I think Matt Wagner and Logan Helton, I think they're on the same strategy right now. I think they're going to try to get to that lap 34 mark and kind of, they had to pit really early, so they're going to try to basically minimize and not have to make that extra stop where maybe it would almost cost them an extra stop. So if they can do it on 3 stops with one of those being on lap number 1, I think that's going to be a good opportunity for them.
I would like to give a shout out to Craig Forsyth because he's a very avid road racer, and it's good to see him having come from 7th up to 2nd. I don't think there's any way he's going to be able to beat Henry Bennett unless Henry makes a mistake, because Craig keeps losing time to him. He's 8.5 seconds back now, and I think that he's going to probably be happy with 2nd here. But he's doing a damn good job. And after everything he's been through, it's great to see him back dominating a road course.
Yeah, so this is kind of the Craig we're used to seeing. You're exactly right there, Steve. And the thing is, I mean, he's not slow by any means. I mean, he's one of the few drivers in the 103s right now. There's only about, I would say, a total about 6 cars in the 103s of those that are running right now. And so, yes, I mean, his lap times are very solid right now in that 27 machine. And then, like I said, some of the other guys, they're not far off. They're in the 104s, 105s. But like I said, that little bit extra is like just, again, that full commitment you got to make at a track like this. So, but right now he's doing exactly what he needs to do, I think, for that. However, I think we've got a battle here for position. It is Matt Wagner working on the 92. Chris Matthew, he's on the button as well. And it looks like he's going to be able to grab that spot. But this is where Chris can maybe, again, we talked about the fuel mileage. If I'm Chris here, I'm going to try to take advantage of this 11 car. Just start using the draft, save as much fuel as you can, run some long gears, maybe run that higher fuel map as well. Try to lean that car out and save as much fuel as you can. I say even if you give up a little bit of time, I think saving that 30 or so seconds in the pits, though, I think that'll be well worth it if he's able to make that happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we'll keep jumping around here. Behind him is Logan Helton. We mentioned him having a little bit of difficulties early, but he's bounced back well into the top 10 now in 9th. A little further back, Nick DeGroot in the 10th position, last week's winner. They say he's been Mr. Photo Finish. I don't know if he's going to have that opportunity tonight, but I mean, still, again, a 2nd and a 1st to start off the season is a great way for him to kick things off. And of course, right now sitting solidly in the top 10, but not out of the woods though, because he's got Jeff Heisong, I should say, right behind him in the 11th spot.
And if I remember correctly, Nick told us last week not to expect a victory this week because I think he said he wasn't that great at road courses.
I mean, top 10 I think is still going to be a good result for him. I mean, we've seen what this track has been doing to a lot of our other drivers tonight, so I think doing what he needs to do right now. In 12th is David Payton. He is right now the last car 1 lap down in the 38 machine, -2 from his starting position, but still, like I said, still in a good spot here. Say on the same lap as the top 10 of David Payton and, Jeff Heisong and Nick DeGroot. And then in 13th is Don Runkle Jr. So you can see he's Craig Forsyth chasing him down, but again, he's one of our 2 highest climbers, himself and Chris Matthews. Right now, Don actually with the advantage by 1 position over that. And Steve, I never want to find those things, but unfortunately, I think Matt Wagner may have had a moment, but I think the car looking okay. So I'll say I got a notification that Matt Wagner crashed, but the car looks good.
No, I was in car with him when it happened. He was in the hairpin. And just kind of a little too fast through there and realized he was not going to make the second kink onto the long straightaway. And he slammed on the brakes and the car went sideways. And thankfully, he stayed on the track, didn't hit anything.
Oh, you see there, he's working some traffic there. James Ledford able to get around him cleanly. But say with that little mistake though, that's bringing some more drivers in here. Say Chris Matthews, he's right back in there. Here comes Logan Helton as well. So say these guys are going to try to kind of again take advantage right now. This is 7th, 8th, and 9th positions, all within about a second or so of one another. And then Alec Coates, he is being worked over right now by Covey Moore. This is for the 4th position between these two drivers here, as we're already at 22 to go. So I say we're going to watch that fuel window here. We got to see when that last stop is going to be coming for Henry Bennett, Craig Forsyth, and see if any of these other guys can stretch that number like we talked about earlier.
By the way, Gael, do you know the name of the designer for this track?
I do not.
His name is Ariel Sadist. And pronounced in English, it's a real sadist.
Well, whatever it may be, I enjoy the track, so I guess that puts me in that sadist group as well. However, we're going to run through the remainder of the field here. Right now, Jimmy Drinan is in the 14th position in that 99 machine. Behind him, the 61 of Kurt Rose is in 15th, plus 6 from his starting position. Jack Walls in 16th, plus 7 from his starting position. And then James Ledford in the 18th position. He is 4 down at the moment. You see right there on the bottom, it looks like Jimmy Drinan has hit pit road. And then Todd Merkel is in 18th, and John Brill is 19th, last car on track here. And I believe Matt Wagner had another little moment there, Steve. Let's see if the car is still okay. But he's lost some track position from it, so let's go back and see. So I never like to find these ones. Sorry, Matt, for pulling up, but we'll have to see what happened to that 11 car. Oh, again, it's that hairpin, Steve, like you mentioned, and loops it around. Makes no contact. It's one of the few occasions we've seen where you don't make the contact, but that did allow some positions to be changed. Also allowed Henry Bennett to get around, so that puts Matt down a lap at the moment. So I'll say now Matt's, you know Matt, how competitive he is. He's going to have the bit between his teeth to keep up with Henry Bennett here. So right now he is in the 8th position, first car one down here. But again, I think he's on that same strategy. And the only thing actually that helps him here on the fuel mileage is actually going a lap down, saves him a lap on fuel, or he wouldn't have to run that extra lap. But again, the competitiveness that Matt is, the way he is, I say, you know, he's not going to want to have to do that.
Yeah, and I'm going to guess that he was probably pushing that hard trying to catch Jim Brooks, who was only, let's see, about 7 seconds ahead of him before.
Yeah, so speaking of Jim, he just made his second pit stop here, so he's still going to have to make one more to the end. That might be that splash like you talked about, Steve. So right now we got a good battle here, though. Logan Helton, Chris Matthews. This is, as I say, the Logan Helton got a little too greedy on the throttle, loops it around, and he's going to try. He has to, unfortunately, has to do a little bit of a three-point turn to get it pointed back, because these cars don't have a lot of turning radius, I should say. So that's going to allow Matt Wagner to get back around him. So move Matt back up into 6th position, as he actually also got around Alec Coates. And that's now moved Chris Matthews up into the top 5 with all of that going on. And so again, I think Chris is in the same boat. He went lap 16, so he might have the outside chance of trying to see if he can stretch this out and make it that 2-stopper. And I'm saying he's got Henry Bennett not too far behind, so you never want to get lapped, but being lapped might be enough to save you that extra lap if you're that 92 car.
Well, we're at lap 32 right now, which is 2 times 16. So if Chris can go another couple laps, then I think he'll be able to make it on this one more stop.
Yeah, so right now Henry Bennett still our race leader here. And actually, as you said, here comes Chris Matthews now hitting pit road. That's with 19 to go. I think that's going to be splash territory on the last lap for me, Steve. If he could have got to 17 to go, I think, actually no, that's 18 to go at the line. So that's about what he's been doing this whole race. I suspect we'll probably see Henry and Craig either in this time or next time by, like I said, either 17 or 16 to go. And if they can get themselves to 16 to go, that'll be more than enough for them, I think, to make it to the end on fuel. And he's not the only one pitting. Anders Arhus, he's in pits for his final stop here with 18 to go. But actually, Steve, I feel like this might be a little early for Anders to make it to the end as well. This is going to be cutting it close for him as well.
Yeah, it is. I'm surprised that he couldn't make it another lap.
So I'll have to keep an eye. Hopefully that's enough for him to get to the end as well. But say still sitting solidly in third though, Covey Moore in that 98 car doing a very good job right now. He's got the whole track all to himself. He's got nobody around him in front or behind. So I'll say again, just kind of able to focus on track. And as we say that, here comes Henry Bennett. He is going to be pitting here, Steve. 17 to go on the dot. We'll see Craig Forsyth. He's going to go one more. So there's Craig again running the fuel numbers. As you see one car, I think it was Logan Helton hitting pit road as well in that 63 at 17 to go. So right now these drivers all trying to make their final stops of the race, but Craig Forsyth able to stretch it just that little bit extra.
And I'm waiting to see how many more laps Matt Wagner goes before he pits, because as you mentioned, he had originally pitted on lap 1, so he really needs to stretch this and be able to make it on one more stop.
Yeah, I think Matt can probably pit here and make it to the end. So I suspect we'll probably see him in this time. Like I said, pitted on lap 17, so this is about that number where he would have to pit. Like I said, because Craig Forsyth. And the other thing too is, I mean, right now Matt's a lap down, so that's going to save him a lap that he has to make on fuel. So it's not a bad position to be in. I say again, never want to be a lap down, but in the grand scheme of things, might get you in your fuel. And though that could be a good decision though in the long run. So. We'll watch Craig Forsyth. I suspect we'll see Craig in this time. Yep, here he comes. That's going to be Craig Forsyth. He's going to make his final stop of the race. And then that is going to, we'll have to keep an eye on Matt Wagner. And yep, here comes Matt as well. Actually, Matt was ahead of Craig. Apologies.
Yeah, you got to watch his pit entry.
That Matt Wagner's?
Yes, please watch his pit entry.
All right, let's go back. Let's take a look at that pit entry of Matt Wagner's here. We will hop on board for this pit entry. Oh, as he goes around Todd Merkel, I think Todd may have actually been out of fuel there, so he had to make a quick evasive action to avoid that number 2 car. So good job by Matt there. So yeah, you're right, Steve. That was definitely something to keep an eye on, because I think you see right there, because you see Craig Forsyth having to go around Todd as well. So I think that 2 car, he ran that thing all the way to the end of fuel. Oh, and Matt Wagner's in the tire barrier, Steve. While we were looking at that. Went back and looked, and unfortunately this one I don't think he's going to get away with here, and I think it was right on the pit exit. I think cold tires may have caught that 11 car out here.
Yeah, that was one of the 2 places I went off in my stocker race.
Yeah, and this is just cold tires. You can see he's got the wheel input in there, and that car's just not turning. And like we talked about, you get into the grass, and then there's just nothing you can do. At that point, you're just along for the ride. You know it's not going to end well here, so... Unfortunately for Matt, that may be it for him. I'm not sure. And unfortunately, I think also at the same time, while this just happened, Logan Helton, I think he just had a moment as well. Let's go and we'll switch now over to that 63 car because he was in that same position. Yeah, you see there, Logan Helton, he had a moment as well. Let's go and see what happened to Logan as well here. And exactly the same thing, Steve. He was off the track. Actually, he's got damage already before this happened. Let me see if I can find a better angle of this. Here we go. He's coming into turn number 1, going by Craig Forsyth. Oh, gets off into the grass, and oh, Craig Forsyth just misses him by maybe about 3 or 4 feet. Unfortunately, I think that's going to be probably it for Logan as well. So let's say this last couple laps, everything's been kicking off here. However, one driver that has not been having any troubles is that number 007 of Henry Bennett. And Craig Forsyth is cycled through in that second position, Steve, about 10 seconds off. And then Anders Arhus, we talked about the pit strategy. He pitted a lap earlier than Henry Bennett, Craig Forsyth. So I feel like Anders here, he's going to have to really save fuel in this 10 car. The thing is, for him, he's got about 17 seconds over Covey Moore. So right now he can just kind of really run the fuel numbers and just save as much as he can. As Covey right now in the 4th spot, Alec Coates in 5th. I don't think Alec can make it to the end as well. He pitted on lap 31, Jim Brooks on lap 30. So I think these 2 drivers still have one more lap or one more stop to make, even if it's just a splash of fuel, which could put them into the hands of Chris Matthews potentially, as Chris pitted on lap 32. That might be able to get to the end there.
Yeah, although the way Chris has been doing it, I don't think he's going to make it to the end. I think he's going to have to take a splash also.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see. So right now, say Henry Bennett kind of in a nice little spot. Say, obviously, you can never just cruise here at this track. Is say any little mistakes are just going to amplify that much worse. And then you got Craig Forsyth, like I said, about 10 seconds off of him. So let's run through the remainder of the group here. So looks like lap 35. Actually, you know what? We can pull up some of our fun little toys here, Steve. Let's look at our pit stop laps here for some of our drivers. So you can see the strategies, the varying strategies for our top 8 drivers here. You see Craig Forsyth, Henry Bennett pretty much on the same stop. Craig able to save 1 extra lap on that second run. And you see Anders Arhus there with the extra stop on his machine. Kobe Moore with a very early stop in that number 4 machine. The number 98 machine, number 4 on position. And then Alec Coates, Jim Brooks on the exact same pit strategy for the most part. Chris Matthews 1 lap further than those guys. And then Nick DeGroot, you see him having to make those the 3 stop as well. So, yeah, it's everybody's kind of, there's a couple cars running very similar strategies. 5th, 6th, and 7th, they're pretty much right on top of each other. But it looks like we talked about, that winning strategy is going to be what Henry Bennett, Craig Forsyth have been able to pull here.
There is, if I heard you correctly, Covey Moore is going to have to pit for a splash. Is that correct?
No, Covey Moore is good to go. He pitted on lap number 36, so he is good to go to the end. He pitted early on lap number 4, and then I think kind of did that strategy we talked about where you pit early, and you pit early, and then you kind of then run the rest of the way that way. So yeah, so I think Covey, he's good to go to the end. The one I have questions about are Anders Arhus in the 10 car, pitting on lap 33, and then I think Alec Coates, Jim Brooks, I think for sure they have to pit. So yeah, so it's gonna be very interesting to see for those guys.
So I would say right now, one of the more interesting battles is probably between Covey Moore and Anders Arhus, because Anders is going to have to really stretch his fuel to not have to do a top off at the end.
Yeah, basically for Anders, he's got 2 options here, Steve. I think is save, or just really push and try to get that, basically build that gap up, but that way you just get that little splash of fuel and still cycle out in front of Covey. Because as we all know, Steve, let's say pretty much everybody here isn't racing for the top 3 for winnings or pride or anything like that. It's to be able to talk to you, Steve. So I think that's going to be the real battle right now, is between that 10 and the 98, to who gets to talk to the Steve Gottschalk.
Actually, I think it's they want to talk to you, Gael.
I'm skeptical about that. I've got the family bias going on. That's the only reason why I'm here. Say you were chose for a better reason. However, I say we're still jumping around and say looking at some drivers. Craig Forsyth, you see him there in the 27 car. I'll say Henry Bennett. That last lap, Steve, he just ran his best lap of the race at 1:02.59. Craig Forsyth, actually, he ran his best lap as well at 1:03.02, so just a couple tenths off of Henry. But these guys are just right now throwing down some numbers. You'd think they'd be rolling out of it and just trying to take care of these things, but like I said, some of these guys, I think just when you're in the zone with these cars, you start running some big numbers. And now Craig Forsyth 1:02.70 out of that 27 car, so these guys are really starting to push the pace a little bit here. I say Anders Arhus, he's not too far behind as well. Low 103s for him, 103.22. So say if he's saving fuel, it's not shown because that he is still staying after it. And I think that's what you see Covey Moore as well, just trying to keep that pressure on him as well to make Anders burn that fuel. Even though there's 20 seconds between them, that's going to be, I think, a passable move here if he can keep that 10 car burning the fuel.
Well, if Anders does have to top off, it's possible that he could get in, get fuel, and get out in less than 20 seconds. So,
yeah, it is actually. That's a really good point, Steve. So we talked about the pit time being 33 seconds. That's including an 8-second or so pit stop for tires and fuel. So I mean, if you take that 8-second stop, so let's say about 2 seconds. So let's say let's knock about 6 seconds off that pit stop. And as I said, here comes Anders Arhus. Now he does hit pit road, Steve. But let's say we take a couple seconds off that'll put it to, let's say, about about 27 or so. I think Covey still gets by him, but now this is going to give Anders a really good chance here to get back after that number 98 car for that 3rd spot.
And I'm going to see. Oh, he's changing tires.
Well, let's say this will allow him to be a little more aggressive. So Kobe Moore, he does go by. That's that third position. So this is going to be very interesting. Alec Coates goes by as well. Again, we know Alec has to pit here. But I think what Honors is doing here, pitting with 9 to go, this is going to give him the opportunity to then put the pressure back on that 98 of Kobe Moore to see if he can maybe force him into a mistake, or just, again, gives him that fresh tires to really kind of hustle that car around. And he is on those alternate reds, so he's going to have the full, he's going to have the more grippier tires to be able to do something with it.
And I hadn't really looked to see what kind of lap times Kobe Moore was running, but Anders has been one of the fastest cars on the track. So this is going to be a fun little battle here.
Yeah, it really is. And you can see already Anders on the button here. However, he's been having to use the button a lot now, so he's only got 3 remaining after this one right there. And you see, wasn't quite enough to get around Alec Coates, so he's going to, his ideal would be if Alec peels off, and it's exactly what happens there. That's exactly what you wanted to have right there if you're Anders. Have that car around in front of you, pit there. Now you've got the clean track in front of you, so we'll watch the gap between the two of them right now. Looks like it's about 6 seconds here between Kobe Moore and Anders Arhus for that top 3 position. As we mentioned, Alec Coates, he just hit pit road for his final stop. Jim Brooks right now, I think he's going to be the next of those that needs to make a final stop as well. Might just be a splash of fuel. I'll have to wait and see for him. And then say the question is going to be a few of those other guys. Chris Matthews, can he save enough to maybe make it to the end without that extra stop? And maybe Jim Brooks might be trying to save a lot of fuel as well in that 51 car.
Looking at Kobe Moore's lap times, and he's running in the low 103s, so that's pretty respectable.
Yeah, last time by, I think he was the quickest car on track in that 98 machine. I say it was a 103.04 for him. That was his best lap of the race, so I think Kobe knows as well that it's go time for him. He's got to kind of keep the hammer down here and try to do what he can to keep Anders behind him. And so this is, again, it's the mixed strategy. You say Anders kind of split the 3 up evenly. Kobe pitted early, and then he went ahead and ran a little longer on the remaining ones to get to the end. So say we've seen a couple different strategies to see how it's all going to shake out. So other drivers that are still running around right now, say in the top 10, Nick DeGroot still solidly in the 8th position, not too far behind Chris Matthews. That is a battle for position. And then Jeff Heisong is in 9th position right now, the first car 2 laps down in the 18, and David Payton rounding out our top 10. But I say a lot of drivers are here on the same lap with these guys as well, with Jeff Heisong, David Payton, Jimmy Dryden. So these guys not out of the woods yet. And then again, those big climbers we talked about, Don Runkle Jr., Chris Matthews. Say Chris still in 7th, Don is in 12th. And I believe Don also easily good to go to the end on field, last pitted on lap 37. And then Kurt Rose is in 13th. I think still has one more stop to go, Steve. He's last pitted on lap 29. So I think he's got one more, probably having to hit the pit road in that 61 machine.
And Don Runkle definitely having a quiet, decent finish, and I think he's done a good. I assume that he must have done a really good job of bracing the track tonight.
Oh, as I said, they got one spinning right in front of him, and look at Don making a big invasive move there. Had to get around that was Todd Merkel that spun it around, and he had to do some evasive action there to get around it. So great heads up by the 00 car. Had to hop the curb a little bit, but could have been a lot worse. And as I say, that Jim Brooks, he hits pit road. That's his final stop as well. So it's going to be interesting to say there's still a few drivers that were making these stops. So some of these drivers might kind of wind up with back with one another here. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. So the drivers I'm watching, Anders Arhus, he just put down a flyer, Steve. 102.17, fastest of the race in that 10 car. He just used his last push to pass. But like I said, what he's doing right now, he is trying to keep the pressure on Kobe Moore here as we got 5 to go. Say it's still holding at about a 4-second gap between the two of them. Kobe also running in the low 103s right here. And he's been starting to use those push to pass as well to try to play defense against that number 10 car.
It's going to be close, but Anders he's definitely running him down. Will he catch him in time? Not sure.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see as Henry Bennett crosses line there. 4 to go for him. But you see here comes a car right out of the pits in front of him. I believe that is the 99 of Jimmy Dryden. So once he can get around him, he's got a little bit of clean traffic. But that's the thing is you're never out of danger at these tracks. And so I'll say that's what right now with that Henry Bennett's got to be careful about. You see Jimmy giving plenty of room to Henry there. He's going to go ahead and take that position as he heads back into the hairpin here. Jump back a little further. Craig Forsyth, he's got some clean air in front of him. And that gap between Covey Moore and Anders Arhus, it's about 3.5 seconds here, Steve. So he's going to need to basically gain about a second a lap. But like I said, Covey is not giving up. He is running some big laps again. Runs a looks like about a mid 103. Anders he runs pretty much exactly a second faster there, Steve. So now it's about 3 seconds between them with 4 to go.
And I've been watching from Anders' cockpit, and I know, he could see Covey Moore ahead of him, and he can see that he's closing in on him. So this is where you get that fine line between really wanting to push it as hard as you can and pushing it too hard and making a mistake.
Yeah, but you can see Covey now. I mean, it's 2.5 seconds, Steven. He visibly can see him, and Covey's on the button too. He's got traffic in front of him, so right now Covey, it's really urgent for him. He needs to try to get around this car, and right now he's just going to get that pass done here, so now Anders is going to have to do the same. But yeah, I think Covey's doing everything he can. Like I said, Anders keeping that pressure on him as they're about to cross the line for 3 laps to go in this race. Anders just giving it everything he has, and I know Covey as well. He's doing everything he can to hold on to that top 3 position.
I think that maybe not having any more push to passes is going to hurt him.
Yeah, I mean, there's not a lot of left between the two of them. Covey's got 3 left. Like you said, Anders is out of them. He's going to get around that car right there. I believe that might be David Payton, if I'm not mistaken. So you see David doing a nice job there, just kind of rolling out of the way, letting them go after it here. And I say it's that turn right there, that hairpin. That's when you get so close on. Anders gets too aggressive on the throttle. He's going to be okay. No damage. He's going to try to loop this car back around. I think that's going to end the fight there for 3rd. However, he'll still easily be able to hold on to that 4th position because he's actually got a lap basically on Alec Coates for that 4th spot. So unfortunate, but I mean, you had to take the risks there, and I say nothing against Anders there. I mean, I would have been doing the exact same thing, and while it's frustrating, I say that's unfortunate. But yeah, I love the fight there out of Anders there, trying to chase Covey back down.
Definitely, and it's one of those things where you start to feel more and more desperate as you see there's only 3 laps to go and you're 2.5 seconds behind someone.
Yeah, exactly right. So as we're about to cross the line, Steve, you see the white flag is out for Henry Bennett. So what better way to finish this thing off is we'll ride on board with our race leader, Henry Bennett. Started in 2nd position, took the lead over early, and then was able to pretty much hold off the rest of the field there and using some solid pit strategy as well to keep that thing up towards the front and kind of minimizing the time off the track.
Did Chris Matthews have to take another stop yet?
I have not seen Chris pit yet. Oh, as I said, no, he's in the pits now, Steve. He is taking that splash of fuel. So unfortunately, I'd say that's going to put him a little further behind. I don't know if he was in a position to fight for any more spots ahead of him. But I think he's going to solidly still hold on to that 8th spot. We'll keep an eye as the run continues on here. But as we come out of the last 2 turns here, that checker flag is going to be waving over that 007 of Henry Bennett. Going to get the win. You see one there coasting on. I think that was Todd Merkel. But Henry Bennett's going to pick up the win. We jump back now to Craig Forsyth. He's going to come through these last couple of turns now. Craig Forsyth going to finish in the 2nd position, +5 from his starting spot. Nice clean race for Craig. And we saw that great battle between Covey Moore and Anders Arhus. And say Covey using his last push to pass right now. Looks like he's gonna hold on to that 3rd place position. Same thing. He couldn't ride there. He had to go for everything he had just to try to keep Anders behind him. But Covey Moore looks like he's gonna bring home a 3rd place tonight in that 98 car. Wanted to hop in Area 51 for some road course racing, and he's gonna show why he was looking forward to this one as he brings it home in 3rd.
Groot did a great job bringing it home 7th after all that.
Yeah, so now falling back to Anders Arhus. I'm seeing a few. I'm trying to keep up. So Anders Arhus, he's going to come across the line. He's going to finish in the 4th position. And say great run for, I think, also last car on the lead lap. So, and I believe Alec Coates will finish up in 5th. If I'm seeing it right, Jim Brooks in 6th, Nick DeGroot 7th, Chris Matthews in 8th, Jeff Heisung, David Payton rounding out our top 10. And I think these two that finished 1-2 tonight, they might be out of fuel here, Steve.
Not surprise me.
Let's take a look and we'll listen. So we might not be able to get any burnouts from, or what I think might be happening is I think Henry's trying to save as much fuel as possible to get that burnout done in that 007 car. So we'll have to keep an eye, and we'll watch him as he comes back across the finish line here. Craig Forsyth right in tow along with him there.
It looks like I'm not seeing any indication of throttle on Henry Bennett's car.
Yeah, he might have to just park this thing at the start-finish line, and that might be about the best he can get with this one tonight. But regardless, though, well-run race for him, well-earned. As there, he's got enough fuel, Steve. He's going to loop it around there on the front stretch. So he doesn't. Again, we talked about how narrow this track is, Steve. You don't have a lot of room to do some burnouts. So Henry got about half of one in, and that was about all he could get there in that 007.
And I think he actually did that without touching the gas, because I did not see any lights light up on his steering wheel.
All right, so we got to pull up our top 3 drivers here, and we're going to start off with our 3rd place finisher, which is going to be the number 89 of Covey Moore, or sorry, number 98, getting dyslexic here, of Covey Moore. So I pull Covey on in here. Say, Covey, I know you wanted to start running some road course races here. I say, obviously I do plenty of racing with you over on Wednesdays with Dark Horse. So first off, it's a pleasure to have you over here. And I mean, take us through your race. I'm hoping you made me feel smart there, because I had the strategy idea of maybe pitting like a lap or 2 in, doing that short stop and then running the rest of the way out to kind of minimize the time in the pits. If you couldn't do that stretch to make it on the 2-stopper, just take us through your pit strategy tonight.
Saving is not my strong suit. There's no question. I'm horrendous at saving in just about anything. And while this car's got fuel maps to take advantage of, I don't run these cars enough to really understand how the fuel maps work. So write down what you said. The idea was just get those 3-4 laps out of the way that everybody is short on a stint where they'd have to save just a little bit and be able to go kind of, put your foot through the floorboard the rest of the way and cut gaps as hard as you can. And it actually worked out for a podium, which I figured I was going to be top 5, top 7 with that strategy, but it worked out.
What was it that made you pick having the short pit at the beginning rather than the end?
The blacks. So there was a miscommunication over at Factory Back between Nick DeGroot and myself. We were under, excuse me, sorry. We were under the understanding we were just one compound, and found out with about, 40 minutes before race time, we were still sticking with the 2 compound when Wagner announced that. So I immediately jumped onto to the primaries, and the last corner was the bane of my existence. So it was more just getting the stint in the blacks out of the way, and then just taking reds and going hard.
Oh, that sounds like a good way to do it.
Nice. And yeah, I mean, and like I said, the 2 tire the 2 compound that you guys had to use tonight, was there anything that stood out for you between the reds and the blacks? I know some drivers mentioned that it seemed like the reds would really suffer towards the end of the stints. Did you have a preferred compound that you ran throughout the race, or what was your game plan on that part?
The reds are always going to be preferred. I feel like they're just kind of better over a longer period of time, while the blacks, the laps I did get in on the blacks in practice, the laps are getting just a little bit better, but I still found they were, between 5 and 7/10 off. So I want to be on those reds. Fall off I didn't find too bad. You feel it up in the hairpin, I think that's turn 5 down there, where you kind of have to carry some speed up and over a crest, and then everything just falls away. And the first time I felt that on the blacks, felt that just kind of over rotation, that was the lap I came in. I had Craig behind me, which was awesome from the strategy point of view. If I was going to be coming in early, just keep those guys back. I knew it was going to be 25 seconds back. So it was just, the blacks were just I didn't want to be on them, so I got off of them.
All right, so the last one I have before we'll kind of give you your opportunity for thanks and shouts is going to be those final laps. Obviously, you saw towards the end, Anders had to go ahead and pit there, which got you up to third. I'm gonna say obviously it wasn't a big gap between you guys, just maybe about 4 or 5 seconds. How much were you watching the relative there? As we saw you, say you saved obviously a lot of push to passes there at the end. I mean, how aggressive did you have to kind of step up there at the end to try to make sure that you didn't let him get back to your rear wing?
I think Anders is probably second, third pace. Just on pace, he was keeping up with Henry for that first stint really well. So I just knew he was going to be closing on me. So I was watching it real close. I knew we were going to have about a lap and a half battle if things were going the way they were going. For me, it was just kind of, don't give up a full second a lap and I should be okay. So I was watching it real close, and it sucks he had, it sounds like he had to check up just a little bit on a lap car in 5 and looped it around. And then I had an off there with 2 to go, just dreaming up something else with 2 to go and ended up cutting some lawn. But yeah, I was watching that gap real close, and I think Anders is easily the podium if that race, if he doesn't have that incident and that race is 1 lap longer.
Yeah, I mean, I have daydreams about as well being able to be interviewed by Steve, so I know exactly what you mean on that one. But no, just awesome job tonight, Covey, and say it was great to see you over here. Say I know what you can do with those DW12 cars, and to see you over here on Mosport, say kind of not a one-off. Obviously, you have another road course or two that you'll be able to hop in with, but up there contending for the win, great strategy as well. Definitely want to give you the floor here for that run tonight.
Yeah, thanks. I just Factory Back Motorsports, me and Nick DeGroot, we work really hard at trying to get faster in everything we get in, and I've not done a lot of this IR18 stuff, and definitely been chasing the road course racing. So yeah, thanks to Nick and Factory Backed, and then Henry and Craig. Got to thank those guys for pushing me. That they're the guys you're aiming for. Jim, Guile, you guys for letting me pop in and do this just kind of one off, like you said, just the road courses deal. I appreciate the airtime.
All right, man, enjoy it, and we'll see you tomorrow over at, I believe it's New Hampshire. So we'll be having our hands full over there. But yeah, enjoy this one, man, and look forward to chatting with you again here soon.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, Kobe.
All right, Steve, that is our third place finisher, Covey Moore. That brings us now to our second place finisher in that number 27 of Craig Forsyth. Let's go ahead and bring Craig on in here. All right, Craig started in the 7th position, bring us at home in 2nd. And say, you and Henry, you guys made that field number happen. Did you pretty much, I mean, what was the commitment level there? Was it pretty much pace lap all the way to lap 51, or did you have a little bit of leeway there to be able to burn maybe a little bit extra here and there to make that number?
It was going to be tight. I screwed up in qualifying. I didn't realize that it was a 1 lap. It had been set to 1 lap. I had been away, I guess, we discussed that it was set up that way. So I started navel gazed my way around my first lap, getting ready for the second lap, across the line, and it was like, oh, you're done. So as soon as that happened, I changed my strategy, because I think I was going to have the same, the same approach that I think Anders and Colby had, which was I just wanted to go for it. This track is too fun to be fuel saving on. But being back in 7th, it was like, all right, I need to fuel save. So once I realized that was what Henry was doing as well, it was just committed to it, stayed with it. I intentionally extra fuel saved the second stint just to try and go 1 extra lap so that I could lead 1 lap, because I knew Henry wasn't going to let me lead much more than that.
Did you know before the green flew, had you already decided that you were only going to do a 2-stop strategy, or were you just going to kind of wait and see how things played out?
No, I was clutching and fuel saving right from the pace lap. That was going to be my goal, unless something changed. And the only way something was going to change was if Henry crashed out, because basically if you aren't starting right behind him and can't draft to follow, you're never going to catch Henry. So I knew that. So I'm glad for the lightweight motorcycle camping gear boys. It was a good race. We did good, came up and got the finish. It wasn't the qualifying we wanted, but definitely got the result we wanted. It's after the last couple of races, it's good to get some a good result and get on the podium and talk with Gael and Steve, my 2 favorite commentators.
Thanks, Craig. um, I'm turning red.
I was gonna say you threw him off his game there, Craig. Well done.
You're welcome.
Plus, Gael has been cracking jokes all night about how everybody wants to talk to me at the end of the race, not him. So it's been a crazy night.
I'm just here because this is my dad's league, so I'm obligated by birth.
What I wanted to say, Craig. I mean, you're definitely one of the road course aces in this league, and it's great to see you back up there challenging for the win and running as well as you are, and at least getting that second place tonight.
Yeah, as I said, I'm happy with it. It's a track I love. As I said, I wish we could have just gone flat out. I mean, Henry probably would have won by even further, but it's a really fun track once you've mastered, or I wouldn't say master, once you're good at it. I mean, Lord knows I've made enough mistakes on this track in the previous seasons, so it's nice to get a good result.
Yeah, say top three, obviously. At your country track, if you will. Say I don't know if it's your home track, so say there's plenty of good tracks up in Canada, but just awesome job though tonight, Craig. I say able to, it looks like, keep that thing clean throughout the race. Obviously a lot of stuff going on in those opening couple laps, but able to stay out of trouble. So just well earned. To say, like Steve mentioned, say it's always good to see you kind of back 100% as well. Showing what you can do with these guys when you got everything going for you with that 27 machine.
Oh, thanks, guys. You guys stay safe.
You too, sir.
Yep, good job.
All right, Steve. Unfortunately, we're not going to be able to have a chat with our race winner, Henry Bennett, as he actually has some guests staying in the next room, and it's past 2 a.m. for him. So he was doing all he could to do as well as he could, and he was able to get the win, obviously, tonight. But I won't be able to get a winner's interview with him. So I'm going to try to put somebody out of their comfort zone here, and instead of talking to our race winner, see if we can pull at least one more person in, and we'll see if they're actually around and paying attention, because I want to pull in our highest climber of the race, and that is going to be the 00 of Don Runkle Jr. Let me see if I can get, first I'm trying to see if I can get his car pulled up here.
I like that idea. Let's put Don on the spot.
All right, let's go ahead. Oh, he snuck out, Steve.
He must have been listening.
He was listening. I think he jumped out of here. I was trying to pull everything up, and he bailed on us. That's
if you
sneaky Don.
If you jumped out because you were listening to us, you're a coward.
Well, so we'll maybe not be able to get an interview with him, but so Don Runkle Jr., though, 00 car, our highest climber, plus 14 positions to finish in the 11th spot tonight. A great run for him. I say the other highest climber we mentioned as well was that number 92 Chris Matthews, plus 11 for him. Unfortunately, I think these guys are kind of onto us, Steve. But this is kind of what I expected from Mosport tonight. I say this is a very difficult track. Like I said, I mean, you have to be committed and then some with these things. These guys did an awesome job tonight. So like we saw, there's a couple points there where a lot of stuff happened in a very short amount of time. Those first opening couple laps, and then really seemed like the last pit stop as well. There's a lot of things happened as well right after that segment happened as well. But we had a little bit of calm kind of towards the middle, but just this track isn't meant to be easy, and it definitely proved it tonight.
Yeah, easy for the drivers and not easy for the broadcasters either. And I got to give you a compliment for staying on top of things as well as you did.
Yeah, it was definitely hard to follow as much as we could, but yeah, I mean, and that's just the way these road course races are. It's very tricky at times, but just overall though, just awesome job by everybody tonight. But before we get any further though, too, Steve, we got to show our final results for the evening.
Let's do it.
So go ahead and pull those on up. All right, so you see Henry Bennett getting the win by Craig Forsyth, just under 14 seconds, a little bit different than our thousandths of a second finishes we've been having the last 2 weeks. So I think that at some point we're going to have to do that in a road course. That makes perfect sense there. Covey Moore brings it home in third. Anders Arhus in fourth. And then you got 5th through 10th, you've got Alec Coates, Jim Brooks, Nick DeGroot, Chris Matthews, Jeff Heisong, and David Payton. And then you have 11th through 18th, Don Runkle Jr., Jimmy Drennan, Kurt Rose, Jack Walls, Todd Merkel, Matt Wagner, Logan Helton, and James Ledford. And then we have from 19th through 25th was John Brill, Yari Brupacher, Chris Jabot, David Leclerc, Joseph Morales, Charles Teed, and Gary Corley round out our 25 drivers taking part in tonight's event. All right, Steve, before we finish things up for the evening, any final thoughts on your end, sir?
I think the race played out pretty much the way we thought it would. That really, the people that were going to be successful were the ones that kept their car on the track as best they could for the whole race. Henry Bennett is just a freaking robot at these tracks. And I would say that Craig Forsyth was pretty much of a robot tonight as well. And I think almost everybody behind them had one issue or another, and still, at least a bunch of them only had like one issue, so they still were able to get decent finishes out of it. And it was interesting to see how the fuel strategy played out as well. So it was a fun race to watch.
Yeah, so you're right. So yeah, I would say probably of the humans, say Covey Moore with the best results of them in the 3rd position. But yeah, I mean, just kind of what we expected from Henry there tonight. I'll say same thing, not surprised at all with Craig as well. Say he's definitely one of those ones you always want to watch in these road courses. But yeah, so say a great job by all the drivers there. And I say one of the drivers as well, say mentioning after the race, Alec Coates, he mentioned he's basically taking his 0X and getting out of that track as fast as possible. So I'll say kind of mission accomplished for Alec, because I mean, and that's a really good point is, I mean, you get those 0 incident points, there's some bonus points involved there as well. So really a well earned for Alec as well to get that top 5, get no incident points, and I say that's a really good points haul for him as well in that 3 car.
Yeah, definitely, and that's a testament to just keeping your car on the track the whole time, and just managing your pace at a pace that you're comfortable with, that you're not pushing it so hard that you do risk running off the track.
Yeah, exactly right. So congrats again to our top 3, Henry Bennett, Craig Forsyth, Covey Moore. Next week we will be at New Hampshire as well. Say we mentioned with that partnership with Dark Horse, they'll be there tomorrow night. We'll be there on Tuesday night, a week from tonight. 125 laps will be the distance there, so that's going to be a very challenging one. That track, I say, we'll have to see how they get through that one. But until then, Steve, as always, pleasure having you in the booth with me. Look forward to be able to cover next week with you. And yeah, I'll say for those that are watching, thank you again for supporting us. Really want to appreciate everybody watching either on Green White Checker TV or on ESTV. So I really appreciate those guys as well, partnering up with Dark Horse and giving us the opportunity to kind of have more places to broadcast these things. Say it's been a lot of fun. Been a lot of fun to work with those guys as well. So look forward to continuing that as well. But until then, have a wonderful evening, and we'll catch you all on Thursday for the Premier Series at Atlanta.
Have a good night, everyone, and thank you, Gael. I had a great time, as always, with you.